Have you ever picked up your smartphone or, I don't know, even just used a simple kitchen gadget and felt an immediate sense of ease? Like, wow, this was made just for my hand.
Oh, absolutely. Or, the complete opposite. You wrestle with some new device, totally baffled by its controls, and you just think, who on earth designed this? Did they even think about how a real person would use it?
Exactly. It's that universal experience, right? That moment of just
Yeah.
intuitive understanding or sometimes, yeah, pure frustration.
It really perfectly illustrates how deeply design impacts our daily lives, often in ways we don't even consciously notice.
Absolutely. And that intuitive connection or, well, that frustrating disconnect, that's precisely what we're plunging into today on The Deep Dive.
Welcome along. This is where we take your sources and, well, we try to unearth the most compelling insights, the surprising facts, and maybe those wonderful aha moments that make you look at the world just a little bit differently.
Today, we are immersing ourselves in the fascinating world of human-centered design. We're exploring how objects, spaces, even complex systems are created with, well, with you, the human user, right at their very core.
Our deep dive today is based on some really powerful excerpts from the book Beautiful Users, which was published by Cooper Hewitt, Smithsonian Design Museum. We've carefully explored its foreword, the acknowledgments, a really captivating prologue, a foundational essay.
A truly thought-provoking project section, several revealing case studies, and importantly, a comprehensive glossary of essential terms, too.
Mm-hmm. So our mission really is to uncover how design has shifted, how it's evolved from this historical quest to fit people to existing frameworks and
They're
machines.
truly designing for people, and maybe even with people now.
Exactly. We'll trace this fundamental shift, seeing what it means for our everyday existence, for how we live and interact with the world.
So get ready to discover the rich history, the evolving philosophies, and some genuine surprising examples of how understanding human needs, our needs, has transformed nearly everything around us. It's quite a journey, from ancient ideals all the way to cutting-edge tech, all centered on one thing: you. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Our journey into human-centered design, maybe surprisingly, begins not in some sleek modern design lab, with 3D printers and VR headsets.
No, not at all. We're going way, way back, ancient history, really, philosophy and art.
Right. Think back to Leonardo da Vinci's super iconic Vitruvian Man, the one, that perfect human body drawn inside a circle and a square. It's an image most of us recognize instantly.
Yeah, and what's fascinating there is how that classical idea, which was deeply inspired by the Roman architect Vitruvius, from his 10 books of architecture, it really established this foundational concept of man as the measure. Man is the measure of the built world.
So the idea was that buildings, even whole cities, should be scaled to the human body.
Exactly. It wasn't just about looking good. It was about creating environments that were perfectly suited for optimal human habitation. But, and this is key, this early design principle was all about an ideal form, a kind of universal standard for beauty, proportion, functionality.
Yeah, that mostly overlooked individual differences, I guess.
Precisely. It was about fitting the world to a perfect theoretical human, not necessarily the diverse range of people we actually see.
Okay, but then, fast forward quite a bit, centuries later, and something huge happens: the Industrial Revolution.
Right. A massive societal shift.
And with that, the focus starts to pivot pretty dramatically, doesn't it? Away from those philosophical ideals of human forms towards, well, industrial efficiency, standardization.
Mm-hmm. And our sources introduce us here to Ernst Neufert. He was a prominent Bauhaus architect back in the 1930s. The Bauhaus, of course, being that hugely influential German art school known for its functionalist approach.
And Neufert, he famously tried to standardize, well, pretty much everything, from simple tools to entire buildings.
Yeah, he really did. If we step back for a second, his huge work, Bauentwurfslehre, which translates roughly as architect's data, it became this global Bible for architectural standards, first published in Germany in '36 and actually still widely used today.
Wow.
Now, initially, Neufert used classical proportions, like the golden section, to diagram an ideal human body. But our source points out this subtle but really profound shift later on.
Okay, what was the shift?
His later work actually adjusted his detailed data on human dimensions. He tweaked it to reflect a highly standardized industrial unit he called the octametric brick.
An octametric brick.
Yeah, and this brick then became the basis for a universal grid that could generate dimensions for basically any part of a building materials, furniture, everything.
So this raises a critical question, doesn't it? Was the human body really shaping design anymore? Or was design, in its push for industrial norms and efficiency, actually trying to make the human body conform to its standards?
That's exactly the question. It's a subtle difference, but absolutely crucial in how we think about design evolving. It really highlights that tension between, humanity and industry.
That tension really sets the stage perfectly, because after World War II, a pivotal new phrase pops up that really shifts the whole paradigm: designing for people.
hmm Coined by the pioneering industrial designer Henry Dreyfuss himself.
Right. And this is precisely where these critical concepts of human factors, or ergonomics, really come into the spotlight, aiming to fit the machine to the person, not, like we just discussed, the other way around.
Exactly. This concept of human factors, or ergonomics, it's a fascinating blend. It combines detailed knowledge of bodily dimensions, that field known as anthropometrics, which has roots in statistics,
Okay.
with a deep understanding of psychology, how people think, how they behave.
And Dreyfuss, through his firm, really pushed this idea, especially in his 1955 book, Designing for People.
He did. That book famously introduced the iconic Joe and Josephine drawings. They were meticulously drawn by Alvin R. Tilley, who was an engineer in Dreyfuss's office.
Joe and Josephine, the average Americans.
That's right. These figures were based on huge amounts of military data for men and fashion industry data for women. They represented the 50th percentile, the so-called average American user.
And they were published as life-size charts.
Yeah, later on, as these life-size wall charts called the measure of man, it made it much easier for designers to literally visualize and then create more comfortable, usable products that actually fit average bodies, a practical tool.
So if Vitruvian Man was about the ideal, how did this idea of the average actually show up in, say, a real product?
Well, our sources use a fantastic example, the evolution of the telephone. Specifically, Henry Dreyfuss's groundbreaking work for Bell Labs. It perfectly illustrates this shift.
Okay, let's walk through that. Starting with the Model 302, introduced way back in 1937. It looked pretty sleek, right? Functional.
Oh, it was described as an artifact of extraordinary beauty. It had these curving sidewalls, a graceful arc, very sculptural.
But what happened when actual people started using it day to day?
Well, despite looking elegant, it had some very real usability issues. Our sources mention that the triangular profile of the handset, the part you hold, caused the device to kind of turn annoyingly when you tried to cradle it against your shoulder.
Right, so you couldn't easily talk hands-free.
Exactly. It looked beautiful, but it wasn't quite human-centered in its function. It didn't account for that intuitive user behavior.
Which I imagine led directly to the next iteration, the Model 500, introduced in 1949. This feels like where the shift really happens. How did they approach this redesign differently?
Totally different approach. To create this next-gen phone, Dreyfuss's team and the Bell Labs engineers started by meticulously focusing on the handset itself. They actually studied measurements from over 2,000 human faces.
2,000, wow.
Yeah, to precisely figure out the average distance between the mouth and the ear.
Okay, so pure data driving the form.
Right. They affectionately called the resulting shape, which was kind of flattened, squared off the lumpy rectangle. Alvin Tilley, the guy who drew Joe and Josephine, apparently exclaimed it was a design that is neither concave nor convex, and without sex is the darndest thing.
So it was a deliberate move away from abstract sculptural forms towards design rooted in actual human anatomy and observed behavior.
Precisely. And furthermore, John E. Carlin, who was an industrial psychologist at Bell Labs, so bringing in that psychology piece, made a seemingly small but really significant change to the rotary dial.
What did he do?
He moved the numbers and letters outside the finger holes.
Oh, right. So they wouldn't rub off or be hidden when you were done.
Exactly. It prevented them from wearing away and kept them visible while the dial turned. Carlin also added simple white aiming dots inside each finger hole.
Aiming dots.
Yeah. According to Dreyfuss, those dots alone cut dialing time by a remarkable 7/10 of a second.
7/10 of a second. That's incredible, just from adding little dots.
It shows how tiny insights into human behavior and how we interact can drive really significant design improvements in daily use. Bell Labs also started making phones in different colors around 1953, which helped transform the phone from just a utility into, an appealing consumer product.
Okay, so anatomy, behavior, even consumer appeal starting to creep in.
Yeah.
And then the evolution continued with the Princess. Introduced in 1959, this was different again, wasn't it? Lighter, smaller.
Yeah, explicitly designed for a specific demographic. Teenagers and young women. It was intended as a stylish bedside accessory.
So what user behavior insights drove this design?
Well, the design team had noticed a common but what they called unanticipated use of the heavier Model 500. People were lying in bed with the phone base resting heavily on their chest or stomach.
Ah, okay. So the princess was a direct response to that observation.
Right. Make it lighter, smaller, more suitable for that context. Interestingly, though, the design team chose to integrate a standard Model G handset, the lumpy rectangle, as a kind of survival form into the princess design.
Why is that?
Mostly to minimize manufacturing costs, keep it efficient to produce. But a compromise was made. The numbers got moved back inside the finger holes to save space, even though they knew it was less efficient for dialing.
Trade-offs.
Always trade-offs. And its lighter weight actually turned out to be a bit of a downside, too. Users commonly pulled it right off tables by the cord. Later designs had to add weighted bases to fix that.
So this trilogy of phones, 302, the 500, the Princess, it really paints a picture, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It beautifully demonstrates Dreyfus's evolving focus, starting with aesthetic form, then moving to meticulous study of typical user behavior and anatomy with the average user in mind.
And then shifting again to strategically target specific consumer demographics, responding to observed use, even unanticipated use.
Exactly. It highlights how user observation could lead to significant innovations, even if compromises were sometimes made due to market demands or manufacturing realities. It's a fantastic little microcosm of these big shifts in design thinking, showing how that average user became a central focus, but then also how design started to look beyond the average, too.
Okay, that progression from the ideal to the average and then even to specific demographics is really clear. But like you just hinted, the idea of designing only for an average user, well, it quickly ran into limitations, right?
Right.
Designers realized people aren't all average.
Exactly. People come in all shapes and sizes. And Niels Different, who actually worked alongside Henry Dreyfus for decades, co-authored this really influential series of rotary selectors called Human Scale, starting back in 1974.
Human scale. How did that push beyond just the average?
Well, what's fascinating about Human Scale is that it went significantly beyond just documenting the mean or the 50th percentile user. It was actually a brilliant piece of user-centered design itself. It took these massive, dense books full of linear charts and collapsed them into light, interactive, easy-to-use tools, these rotary selectors.
Ah, so the tool itself was user-centered.
Right. And the data it presented meticulously documented a much more diverse continuum of human forms. Yes, it still showed the 50th percentile, the average Joe and Josephine. But crucially, it also provided detailed dimensions for the bottom 2.5 percentile and the top 97.5 percentile. So the extremes...
Acknowledging the variations, especially in height.
Exactly. It showed bodies at the midpoint, but also the extremes covering 95% of the U.S. population at the time. However, our source does note an interesting limitation. These diagrams primarily accounted for variations in height, but not so much in weight.
Why not?
Well, the source quotes that in their fleshy areas, populations feature broader individual differences than they exhibit in their height. It points to this ongoing challenge, even when you try to create more inclusive systems, the goal of a standard measure keeps bumping up against the incredible particularity, the uniqueness of actual human beings.
That makes sense. And this move towards documenting diversity, recognizing difference, it leads us directly to another critical concept, universal design. This really started gaining traction in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, and it was largely pushed forward by the newly vocal disability community, who were advocating strongly for greater inclusivity in the built environment and in product design.
So what exactly is universal design at its core?
Stepping back a bit, universal design champions this fundamental idea that thoughtfully accommodating people with disabilities actually improves the experience and accessibility for everyone, full stop. As curator Kara McCarty highlighted with the Museum of Modern Art's 1988 project, Designs for Independent Living, which was one of the very first museum exhibitions focused on universal design, she made this profound point. People are often disabled not just by their physical conditions, but by the obstacles in the environment around them.
Right. The environment disables them.
Exactly. Her insight was that once you remove those obstacles, the disability itself effectively falls away in that context. McCarty really emphasized involving the user in the design process because the goal is to develop aids and environments that make maximum use of a person's abilities. It shifts the focus away from what a person cannot do towards empowering what they can do.
So things we often take for granted now, like curb cuts, ramps instead of just stairs, automatic doors, maybe those textured paving surfaces at crosswalks. They aren't just for one specific group like wheelchair users or the visually impaired. They end up benefiting a whole range of people. Parents pushing strollers, delivery workers with carts, someone with a temporary injury like a broken ankle, even just someone carrying heavy shopping bags. It really is designed for all.
It truly is. However, Our sources also bring up an important critical perspective here from design historian Bess Williamson.
Okay, what's the critique?
Williamson raises a question about this very impulse to seamlessly assimilate disability features into the mainstream consumer market. She asks, by making these features blend in, does universal design risk inadvertently hiding or ignoring actual people with disabilities? Does it sort of contribute to society's underlying desire, perhaps, for disability to just disappear, rather than fully accepting and celebrating human diversity in all its forms? It encourages us to think critically about the nuances, the potential unintended consequences of labeling something as universal. It brings up questions of visibility, recognition, and maybe even erasure.
That's a really powerful point. And it leads us beautifully into a truly thought-provoking project that pushes these boundaries even further. Thomas Carpentier's The Measure of Man, Architect's Data Add-on.
Ah, yes, this project is fantastic.
This isn't about making products blend in or making disabilities disappear at all, is it? It's doing the opposite. It radically imagines architectural forms and spaces specifically designed for what he calls extraordinary bodies. Those individuals typically excluded from standard design, from that modernist dream of universality you might associate with figures like Le Corbusier and his modular system.
Exactly. This project, which was actually Carpentier's 2011 degree project at the École Spéciale d'Architecture in Paris, it's such a powerful counterpoint to all of that standardization we talked about earlier.
How so?
It directly challenges that notion of a single universal body. It basically declares, look, the body is not standard. It can be tall, short, fat, thin, wizened, deformed, or twisted. And Carpentier then visualizes how architects might actually design for these specific singularities instead of trying to force diverse individuals into predefined, standardized spaces.
Yeah, the examples he comes up with are truly imaginative, almost fantastical, but make a serious point. Like for Arnold the bodybuilder with his, incredibly broad shoulders, Carpentier envisions an extra-wide house entrance, but only at shoulder height. It requires custom frames, extended hinges. It directly acknowledges Arnold's unique physique instead of making him awkwardly squeeze through a standard door.
Right. Instead of making Arnold conform, the architecture adapts to him. It's a complete flip. Or take Oscar, the amputee runner, described as one of the fastest men on Earth despite his physical difference. His athletic prostheses are designed for running, right? Not really for walking. So Carpentier imagines a staircase that functions more like a running track for him. It's flattened, has rounded edges, specifically tailored to his unique way of moving. It completely rethinks what a staircase even is or could be.
It's designing for the specific action, the specific body. What about the Borg Queen from Star Trek?
Yeah.
That's a wild one.
Yeah. For her, depicted as just a head and chest integrated with machinery, he imagines an electric rail system. It allows her upper body to glide smoothly from room to room, effectively disconnecting her from the ground altogether. It's taking the constraint and turning it into a unique design opportunity.
Or David, the legless dancer. How does design accommodate him?
Carpentier imagines furniture installations that raise David's level, creating this continuous landscape where he can interact with his wife at different altitudes, or a bathroom where all the fixtures are at the same zero level, accessible to him. It's about creating an environment that enables interaction and function based on his specific embodiment.
And hermaphroditus. How does architecture respond to double identity?
This one is really provocative. He designs a high bidet that allows cleaning of female organs while standing in what's typically considered a male position. It respects the double identity, and even makes the intimate public almost like the elaborate rituals of Louis XIV's court. It challenges norms around privacy and gender in architectural space.
It sounds like these examples are pushing way beyond just function.
Oh, absolutely. They're about identity, about challenging norms, about acknowledging and even celebrating human particularity. It's about transforming constraints into creative fuel.
Like the recomposed family dining table example.
Exactly. Instead of one standard table and identical chairs, each chair is custom designed for a specific user's singularities, creating variations on a theme. It acknowledges difference within the collective unit of the family.
So what's the big takeaway here for us as users? It feels like this is about designing not just for convenience or even just for accessibility in that universal sense.
Right. It's going further.
It's designing for identity itself, for breaking norms, for acknowledging and celebrating human particularity in all its forms. It feels like a really radical extension of user-centered design.
It absolutely is. It's transforming constraints into these really creative opportunities, and it shows us that design can be a powerful tool for self-expression, for challenging assumptions, and for making space for bodies and lives that don't fit the standard mold.
Okay, so we've gone from ideal to average to diverse and extraordinary bodies. Now, let's shift focus slightly, moving from those more static measurements and fixed forms towards dynamic interaction. Our sources introduce us here to the concept of interface design.
Right. And this field, really pioneered by Dreyfus as well, is all about that crucial plane of connection between humans and machines. How do we actually touch, control, interact with the technology that surrounds us?
So dials, buttons, levers, those are the physical touch points.
Exactly. They're the tangible inputs and outputs. They are the conduits, the invitations that allow us to operate often complex, hidden systems behind the scenes. Dreyfus's Honeywell round thermostat, the one we mentioned briefly introduced in 1953 after 10 long years of development, is such a classic, enduring example of pure interface.
Why pure interface?
Because it boiled down the complex task of controlling temperature to a simple, intuitive action, just twisting the dial. It replaced those clunky, often crookedly mounted boxes. It clearly communicated the system's current state and the desired future state.
And you mentioned it even invited some user customization?
Yeah, subtly.
Yeah.
Users could actually pop off its protective cover and paint the backplate to match their room's decor. It's an early, simple form of user engagement that goes beyond just basic function.
But design didn't just stop at that single point of contact, did it? The field quickly grew broader.
Much broader. It expanded into what we now call interaction design. This focuses more on the dynamic exchanges between users and systems over time.
And Bill Moggridge is a key figure here.
Yeah.
The designer of the first laptop, the Grid Compass, back in 1980.
Yes. Moggridge had this real aha moment. He realized that the relationships, the interplay between the user, the software they were using, and the physical object itself were actually far more compelling and important than just the device in isolation.
And he co-founded IDEO, which became huge in popularizing design thinking.
That's right. IDEO became renowned for developing these technology-integrated products, but maybe more importantly, for championing design thinking as a methodology. It's an approach that starts with a really open-ended problem definition, focuses deeply on understanding user needs and desires first, and then iterates rapidly through building prototypes, testing them with users, learning and refining. As designer Brenda Laurel put it quite nicely, it's about humans and computers constructing actions together.
And the Nest Learning Thermostat is a good example of this evolution.
It really is. It learns your habits over time, it uses sensors, it connects to smartphone apps. Yet its core physical interaction, that simple twist and turn, cleverly echoes the classic Honeywell round. It seamlessly integrates a huge amount of underlying complexity and encourages users to program it for energy saving. It's a prime example of a physical product that's deeply integrated with a digital service.
So the digital interface affords a new way of controlling the physical device, like the August Smart Lock example in the case studies.
Exactly. That's another great one. It fits over your existing deadbolt, but it's app-enabled. You can distribute virtual keys with specific expiration dates, track who comes and goes. It streamlines a common annoyance managing keys without compromising security, all through that blend of physical hardware and digital interface.
And the evolution continues even beyond interaction, right, to the even broader field of experience design.
That's the next layer up, absolutely. Experience design isn't just about a single interaction or even a sequence of interactions. It's about consciously scripting an entire narrative, a whole journey around a person's encounter with a product or a service.
It's about how you feel throughout the whole thing, the memories, the emotions it evokes.
Precisely. The experience economy, as described vividly by James Gilmore and B. Joseph Pine II in their 1999 book, argues that just providing goods and services isn't enough anymore. Businesses need to consciously stage experiences that trigger positive memories and emotions for the user.
And the example of Harry's razors fits perfectly here.
It really does.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur Andy Katz-Mayfield was frustrated by the high price and, let's be honest, often the perceived low value of those hyper-styled plastic blister-packed drugstore razors.
We've all been there.
Right. He saw an opportunity to transform an entire everyday product category, so his team at Harry's didn't just reinvent the physical product, the razor handle itself, which they extensively prototyped for feel and ergonomics. They reinvented the entire system, the packaging, the distribution model, selling directly online, the marketing. By doing that, they created a much more enhanced experience around shaving, aiming to bring a bit of joy back to something mundane, and all at a reasonable price point.
So underpinning a lot of this, from simple handles to complex experiences, is this key concept you mentioned, affordance. Coined by the environmental psychologist James J. Gibson back in '79, what exactly does it mean again?
Right. An affordance is basically a feature of the environment, an object, a surface, whatever, that presents an opportunity for action to a living creature.
So a dial affords turning.
Exactly. The pages of a book afford flipping or fanning or folding or writing on. What's really interesting is that Gibson actually had to make up the word affordance.
He invented the word.
Yeah, because no existing term perfectly captured this dual reference. It refers both to the animal, the user, and the environment, the object or system. Affordances aren't absolute objective properties. They exist as relationships.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think of a crack in a wall. That crack only affords passage, only becomes a doorway when it reaches a sufficient size in relation to a creature that might be able to pass through it. For an ant, a tiny crack is a passage. For us, it isn't.
Gotcha, so it's relational.
Exactly. And this concept is absolutely crucial for designing intuitive interfaces, whether physical or digital, because it shapes how users naturally perceive and interact with things. Good design leverages affordances to make interactions feel obvious and natural.
Okay, with those foundational concepts, interface, interaction, experience, affordance in mind, let's dive into some more of those amazing case studies from the book. They really bring these ideas to life, showing how human-centered design works in the real world. Let's start with the most basic point of contact, the handle.
Right. The handle section provides incredible examples of how design focuses intensely on that physical point of connection, where our hand meets the object. The word handle itself is perfect, isn't it? It's both a noun, the thing you grasp, and a verb, the action of grasping.
It captures that dynamic relationship perfectly.
And a well-designed handle, it just feels right in your hand, doesn't it?
Right.
While a poorly designed one.
Well, we've all felt that frustration, maybe even pain or discomfort.
Absolutely. And a prime example of universal design and handle design has to be the OXO Good Gripped kitchen tools. You mentioned them earlier.
A true classic. And the origin story is key. It was born from a very personal need. Sam Farber, a retired kitchenware designer, noticed his wife Betsy, who suffered from arthritis, struggling painfully with an everyday vegetable peeler.
So he decided to fix it.
He partnered with the firm Smart Design, and they created dozens and dozens of handle prototypes. What's striking is that a standard rubber bicycle handle actually became a key inspiration for the final form.
A bike handle.
Yeah, and the result was those now iconic, instantly recognizable, chubby black rubber handles. It perfectly demonstrates universal design. Improving access for a user with a disability, Betsy's arthritis, actually improved the experience for everyone, regardless of ability. They're just incredibly comfortable and secure to grip. That's fantastic. What about designing handles for more specific medical needs, like the Cimzia injection pen?
Ah, yes. This was designed specifically for rheumatoid arthritis patients who often have limited hand strength and dexterity. Traditional injection pens can be difficult to use, so this design features a unique 3-finger flange and a soft thumb pad.
Why that design?
Because testing showed it could accommodate 14 different grip styles. It makes it much easier for patients to self-administer their medication reliably. It's an example of designing for compliance, making it easier for patients to follow their treatment regimen by improving the usability of the device itself.
And then there's the IOMI needle-free vaccine delivery system. That sounds revolutionary.
It really was, back in 2006. Delivering vaccines traditionally required a skilled technician and a sterile needle. IOMI tasked IDEO with developing a user-centered, needle-free system.
How do they approach that?
Through extensive user testing, IDEO discovered something interesting. Removing a tiny, almost imperceptible layer of skin was necessary to prepare the skin for the vaccine patch. Their final design cleverly uses a small piece of sandpaper for this skin prep.
Sandpaper.
Sounds weird, but it worked. And the device uses a biastable button one that clicks firmly into place to provide both visible and audible feedback when the vaccine is successfully administered. This whole system allows for mass self-application. It has a stable shelf life, and it can be shipped through the mail. Think about the implications for things like pandemic response or reaching remote populations.
Huge implications. What about design that tries to remove the stigma often associated with assistive devices?
Yeah.
Like the Sabi TH-Rive products.
Right. This is about taking things like pill organizers or bathroom grab bars and making them look less medical. Sabi's approach is explicitly no stigma.
How do they achieve that?
Take their folio pill carrier. It looks more like a sleek notebook than a standard plastic pill box. Their Aspiolite 2 pill cutter avoids using a sharp metal blade, making it easier to sell over the counter. Their Sabi Hold Diagrab bar is cleverly integrated to also function as a towel holder, so it blends into the bathroom environment instead of screaming medical aid.
And they involved users in the design.
Actively. For instance, user feedback led them to create the Carafe Grand, a larger water carafe designed specifically for people who take lots of supplements and need more water by their bedside. It's about listening and responding.
Let's shift gears slightly within handles. What about things we use every day, like flatware? The Boyne Studio examples and intriguing.
Yeah, Constantine and Lorraine Boehm's designs really explain function, but also playfulness, narrative, and iconography in something as mundane as forks and spoons. Their hybrid flatware intentionally mimics those mismatched sets you accumulate over time. Goth adds a dramatic, almost theatrical flair.
And Colonial Ghost.
That uses cutouts, referencing historical silver patterns, but also reducing weight and adding visual interest. Their GS Army set directly references utilitarian military mess kits. They're really asking, how do users actually live with their flatware? What stories do these objects tell? It's function plus meaning.
Contrasting with maybe Eva Zeisel's Eva flatware. That sounds more focused on form.
Very much so. Zeisel, a renowned ceramicist, brought her signature fluid forms and curving silhouettes to flatware. She called herself a modernist with a little m, focusing on sensuous organic shapes. She developed her designs through cut paper silhouettes and carved balsa wood prototypes, really feeling the form in 3 dimensions. It's a different approach, emphasizing ergonomics through fluid aesthetics.
And then there's the cutting edge. Prosthetic limbs, examples like the Johns Hopkins Modular Prosthetic Limb, MPL, RoboHand, and Bam Bam. These seem to celebrate difference, not hide it.
Absolutely. They embrace the idea of mechanically augmented bodies. The Johns Hopkins MPL is incredibly advanced, 26 joints, controlled by the user's own muscle signals, or even brain implants for patients with paralysis. It's state-of-the-art.
But then you have RoboHand. That sounds more accessible.
Totally. It was developed by Richard Van Az in South Africa after he lost fingers in an accident. He collaborated online with a theatrical prop designer, Ivan Owen. RoboHand is an affordable, 3D printable prosthetic hand. Crucially, the design files are shared freely online using open source principles.
So anyone can download and make one.
Exactly. It empowers local manufacturing and customization. And similarly, Nicholas Richardson's Bam Bam prosthetic, designed for agricultural communities in developing countries, uses readily available bamboo. It allows users to attach different adjustable tools needed for farming. Again, it's about local materials, open source ideas, and empowering users in specific contexts.
Moving from the hand to the whole body, let's talk mobility. How does design support independence and freedom of movement, especially when facing environmental challenges?
This is so critical. Devices like wheelchairs, bicycles, canes, they can be life-changing. But as our source points out, they always exist within a broader system. A standard wheelchair, for example, assumes you have smooth roads, ramps, elevators.
Which isn't the reality for millions of people.
Exactly. In many parts of the world, rough terrain makes standard wheelchairs unusable. So good design here has to overcome those systemic obstacles.
And that's where the Leveraged Freedom Chair, LFC, comes in. You mentioned it aims to be rideable anywhere.
That's the goal. It's designed to be manufacturable, repairable, and usable on rough ground. Millions need wheelchairs but lack paved roads. The LFC uses human power much more efficiently than a standard chair on uneven surfaces.
How does it do that?
It combines a standard bicycle chain and sprocket drivetrain with these 2 long, extended push levers. Users grip the levers and push. This system allows them to move up to 80% faster on flat ground compared to pushing the wheels directly, and crucially produce 51% higher torque for climbing obstacles or navigating rough terrain.
And you can adjust the leverage.
Yeah, users just shift their hand position along the levers further out for more torque, closer in for more speed. And importantly, the levers can be removed and stored right on the frame, making the chair narrower and comfortable for indoor use too.
Who invented it?
It came out of MIT, developed by Amos Winter and students in his mobility lab. They later founded the company GRIT to produce and distribute it, and the impact is genuinely life-changing.
The source mentions specific stories.
Yes, like Panalal Sahu in Jaipur, India. He was bedridden after a spinal cord injury. A standard wheelchair kept him stuck inside. With the LFC, he now rides 5 kilometers a day, gets out, interacts with people, feels inspired to work again. It really shows how design tailored to challenging environments can profoundly boost independence and well-being.
What about simpler mobility aids, like bicycles? The Stride-Eye bicycle sounds interesting. Foldable.
Yeah, extremely foldable. In under 10 seconds, apparently folding down like a rolling umbrella. It has this very striking triangular A-frame profile, which isn't just aesthetic. It allows the seat height to be adjusted easily, accommodating a wide range of rider heights without complex mechanisms. It's designed for urban commuting, easy to take on public transport.
And a cardboard bike. Seriously. The Ishar cardboard bike.
Sounds unbelievable, right? But inventor Ishar Gaffney uses origami principles, strategic folding, to create incredible strength from simple cardboard. It's made mainly of cardboard, glue, and varnish. Apparently, it can hold up to 500 pounds and could potentially retail for as little as $60. It challenges our assumptions about materials and manufacturing costs.
Incredible. And back to canes, but with a twist. The Together canes by Lanzavecchia plus Y. You mentioned these earlier, designed to look like domestic items.
Right. The insight here is that many people, especially older adults, resist using canes or walkers because they look so clinical, so medicalized, they carry a stigma. These prototypes are designed to integrate seamlessly into daily life, supporting social and mental activities while also encouraging safe mobility.
So the T-cane helps serve tea.
Exactly. The U-cane holds books or craft supplies. The I-cane doubles as an iPad stand. By making these assistive devices look like desirable domestic objects, the designers hope to remove the stigma, encourage use, and therefore promote better health, independence, and social connection. It's about dignity and blending in rather than standing out as medical equipment. These examples show design tackling mobility not just as a mechanical problem, but as a social and psychological one, too.
Okay, let's circle back now to the realm of digital and physical controls, revisiting some concepts but with specific case studies under the theme of interface. This is all about how we humans and our devices communicate through sight, sound, touch.
Right. And modern products are so often this blend of hardware and software. The interface is that vital meeting point, that mix of inputs and outputs, signals and gestures. And interestingly, as products get smarter, some users start to develop almost emotional attachments, trust, empathy, connection with them. Dreyfus's Honeywell Round was a pioneer, as we said.
And the Nest Learning thermostat is the modern evolution.
Definitely. It brings that advanced interaction design to a basic home device. It cleverly recalls the classic Honeywell Round with its rotating physical interface, but it integrates so much more. Sensors detect motion, signaling Nest to adjust temperature when people enter or leave. Pushing the ring brings up menus. Smartphone apps allow remote control and energy tracking. The preparatory drawings in our source material actually show just how complex the task was of integrating all these components into that seamless, elegant wall-mounted unit.
What about the Nito Robotics automatic vacuum cleaner? That case study sounded fun. Users treating robots like pets.
Yeah, it's a quirky one, but reveals a lot. When Smart Design was creating its interface, they started with deep research, watching how people actually interacted with existing robot vacuums like the Roomba.
And what did they find?
A real mix. People were amazed by the technology, but also kind of disgusted by the dirt it collected. They definitely wanted foot activation so they didn't have to bend down. And yes, surprisingly often, they treated their robots gently, almost like pets, giving them names, forgiving their clumsiness as personality quirks.
So they designed the Nito to have emotions.
Well, sort of. Smart Design made the vacuum communicate using sounds that subtly imply emotions. It has unique tones for different situations, like when it encounters a person or gets trapped somewhere. It almost sounds like it's saying, oops, or acknowledging you.
That's fascinating, building on that psychological connection.
Exactly. That research directly informed the Nito's interface. Smart's team developed this whole vocabulary of icons on the display, distinct sounds, and even text messages to signal what Nito was doing. Wake-up cones, simple warnings, status updates. They were careful not to make it annoying, using full melody sparingly. Early prototypes even experimented with large LED graphics glowing through the plastic skin, an innovative idea that influenced the final product and points towards future interfaces that build even stronger emotional connections.
One last interface example, the Cooper Hewitt body scan exhibit. That sounds very meta design about design history.
It is. It's an interactive exhibit right in the museum itself. Visitors can stand in front of a screen and the system captures their silhouette. Then it overlays that personal silhouette onto historical images from the Measure of Man, charts Joe and Josephine, the percentile figures.
So you see yourself in relation to design history.
Precisely. It connects your own personal scale directly to the history of anthropometric representation in design. It makes that history tangible and personal for the visitor, turning data into an engaging interface experience.
Okay, this is all fascinating. But where does it leave the user today? It really feels like the user isn't just this passive recipient anymore, someone who's just measured and then designed for.
Not at all. That traditional divide between the expert designer and the everyday user is genuinely breaking down, becoming much more porous.
We're seeing what our sources brilliantly call the revenge of the user.
It's a great phrase, isn't it? And this concept is deeply, deeply tied to the open source design movement, which of course draws huge inspiration from the open source software world.
So, making design information free and modifiable.
Exactly. It's about making the blueprints, the digital files, the instructions, making it all free, readily available online, and openly modifiable by anyone. This radically challenges traditional ideas about intellectual property, patents, and copyrights. It promotes transparency, and critically, it empowers the user to become a maker, not just a consumer.
It shifts the power, basically.
It really does. It shifts the means of production back towards individuals and communities. It fosters a much more democratic approach to design.
And this leads directly to things like hacking. And not just software hacking, right? We're talking physical objects now.
Absolutely. Hacking physical objects. And the whole maker movement that's exploded in recent years. Think about those slogans you sometimes see, like screws not glues.
What does that mean?
It asserts the user's desire, their right even, to take things apart, to understand how they work, and then maybe reassemble them in new, different, unexpected ways. It's a reclamation of production and understanding.
So the bricoleur, that term from the glossary, someone who creates from whatever's readily available.
Like Levi Strauss described, using the debris of previous events.
They might look at a place like IKEA not as a store full of finished products, but as just a giant warehouse full of potential parts.
Precisely. As a kit of parts ready for repurposing,
Yeah.
the maker movement, really propelled by things like Dale Dougherty's Make magazine and all the maker fairs and community workshops that sprang up, it effectively banished that old idea of the passive user whose needs are just mapped out by designers and then met by manufacturers.
These are enthusiastic amateurs, tinkerers.
Yeah. Using products for unintended functions, seeking intellectual adventure, customizing things, transforming consumerism from the ground up.
Okay, let's look at some examples from the case studies under Revenge of the User. First up, the Free Universal Construction Kit. This sounds amazing.
It's brilliant. It's a collection of nearly 80 3D printable adapter bricks. And what they do is allow you to connect 10 different popular children's construction toy systems together.
So you can connect Lego to, say, Tinker Toys or Next.
Exactly. Lego, Duplo, Fisher Technic, Kennex, Lincoln Logs, all these different systems that normally don't play together. Users can just download the digital files for the adapter pieces and 3D print them themselves. The creators call it reverse engineering as a civic activity. It's a wonderful, playful subversion of proprietary toy designs.
Love it. Then there's Jesse Howard's Transparent Tools. What's the idea here?
These are open source designs for tools, like his improvised vacuum cleaner. It's built from standard wheel assemblies you can buy, repurposed motors, and some 3D printed parts based on the Open Structures OS system.
Open structure.
Yeah, it's this modular construction grid or library of components that anyone can contribute to or use. And Howard provides all the instructions, online web addresses for parts, part numbers, everything. He's directly inviting users to become makers themselves. And importantly, his objects deliberately show their inner workings. They lay bare their mechanisms.
So the opposite of hiding the tech behind a sleek casing?
Exactly. It subverts that traditional industrial design task of masking the technology with an opaque, simplified interface. It's about transparency and understanding.
And a classic example of user empowerment has to be IKEA hacking, right? People taking IKEA stuff and making it into something else.
Oh, definitely. It's huge. It involves repurposing IKEA components, treating their massive catalog not as finished goods, but as this open source book of parts. IKEA's flat pack design already mobilizes user labor for assembly, right?
Sure, we've all struggled with those Allen keys.
Exactly. But IKEA hackers take it way further. Andreas Ben, for instance, designed this really elegant coat rack using only parts from IKEA's cheap Frostastools. And crucially, he publishes his instructions online to encourage others to build or modify it.
So it becomes a community thing.
Right. These hacks might not be solving world hunger, but they absolutely empower people. They encourage understanding of materials, technology, and basic problem solving. And they're often quite creative.
Okay, shifting from physical hacking to digital platforms.
Yeah.
The Noun Project. That's about icons.
Yeah, it's a fascinating example of crowdsourcing design. Founded in 2011, it's essentially building this massive online platform, a visual dictionary of graphic icons for basically everything.
Like icons for global warming or breakdancing.
Exactly. Thousands upon thousands of icons. It aims to build a shared pictorial language for global communication. Users, designers submit icons, and others can license them for use, often for a small fee. The revenue gets shared with the original designer. It's a powerful model where users are also the creative producers, collectively building this huge visual resource.
Very cool. What about Makey? That sounds playful.
It is. It's super playful, but also profound. It's a really simple circuit board kit that lets you turn almost any conductive object into a computer input device.
Any conductive object, like what?
Like Play-Doh, bananas, water, aluminum foil, even a pencil drawing on paper. When a person touches the object and also grounds the circuit, usually just by holding a ground wire, they complete the circuit, and the Makey tells the computer that a key has been pressed or the mouse has moved.
So you can make a banana piano. Or Play-Doh game controllers.
Precisely. It was conceived by researchers Jay Silver and Eric Rosenbaum at the MIT Media Lab. It enables people with almost zero technical skill to experiment easily with physical computing. It demonstrates beautifully that technology is a flexible thing that anyone can shape and control. It demystifies tech and encourages invention.
What about fashion? The Conster VCT platform.
Yeah, this is Continuum Fashion's project. It's a digital platform for making and sharing fashion designs. Users can take 3D garment models, map their own patterns or images onto them, and then have the design digitally printed onto fabric, which is then cut and sewn into the actual garment. It connects digital design directly to physical production for personalized clothing.
And STR VCT shoes, 3D printed shoes.
Also from Continuum Fashion. These are these amazing fantasy-inspired high-heeled shoes that are entirely 3D printed from nylon. They're custom fitted to the user's foot measurements, exploring both the structural strength and the delicate, intricate forms you can achieve with 3D printing. It pushes the boundaries of footwear design and manufacturing.
One more. The Aeros window air conditioner. This involved crowdsourcing platform Quirky and GE.
Right. This is an interesting model of user participation in mainstream product development. Quirky is a platform where the public can submit product ideas and the community helps evaluate and refine them. GE partnered with them for the Aeros AC unit. It's app-enabled, learns your habits, looks way sleeker than most window units.
And the contributors get royalties.
Yeah. People who contribute key ideas or help in the development process receive a share of the revenue. It illustrates how crowdsourcing can accelerate product development and bring user-generated ideas to market much faster, directly involving the user in the creation process from the very beginning.
These examples really drive home that revenge of the user idea, don't they? Transforming consumers into co-creators, hackers, makers, actively shaping the world of manufactured goods and digital services.
It's a fundamental shift in the relationship between people and the things they use.
Okay, so we've seen this incredible evolution, culminating in this empowered, making, hacking user. But where does design go from here? What are the limits? Bill Moggridge, the interaction design pioneer we talked about, he actually mapped out a kind of hierarchy for human factors research, didn't he?
He did. It's really insightful. He visualized it as a sequence, starting with the most basic level of understanding the user.
Which was?
Human anatomy, anthropometrics, the physical measurements we started with, that's the foundation.
Okay, makes sense. What comes next?
Moving upward, getting broader and more complex, he listed physiology, understanding how the body actually functions, its capabilities and limitations. Then came cognitive psychology, exploring how the mind works, perception, memory, decision-making.
So body, function, mind.
Right. Then, broader still, came cultural anthropology, understanding the larger human context, social norms, values, beliefs, the whole human condition.
And what was at the very top? The ultimate consideration.
At the absolute pinnacle of his hierarchy, Moggridge placed ecology. The profound interdependence of all living things, the relationship between human activity and the planet's systems.
Wow, ecology.
Yeah. He recognized, even as he became one of the leading theorists and practitioners of user-centered design, that the lens of individual user need, while absolutely crucial, is ultimately too narrow for the future of design thinking. He saw the inherent limits of focusing only on the immediate user.
So the ultimate deep dive in design,
Yeah.
the next evolution perhaps, is to think beyond just you, the individual user.
To the larger community, definitely, to society as a whole, and critically to the entire world, the entire ecosystem we're part of. It's about recognizing that our interactions with designed objects and systems don't happen in a vacuum. They happen within these vast interconnected systems, social, economic, environmental.
It's moving towards a much more holistic view of design and its total impact, its
It's
consequences.
Precisely. And this raises a really important, maybe challenging question for all of us moving forward. In a world where we're getting incredibly good at empowering individuals through highly personalized, responsive, user-centered design,
Mm-hmm.
how do we also ensure that design simultaneously addresses collective well-being? How do we make sure it considers the health of the community, the sustainability of the planet, the broader ecosystem?
It's that balance again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between the needs of the singular individual and the needs of the universal, the collective.
Exactly. And navigating that balance, designing for both the beautiful user and the beautiful, healthy planet, that feels like the next great frontier for human-centered thinking. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've taken today.
Yeah.
We started way back with Vitruvius's ideal man as the measure, saw the huge impact of industrial standardization.
Then watched how designers like Henry Dreyfuss and Niels Different began to truly measure man in all his variations, designing for people from the statistical average to the wonderfully, sometimes radically diverse.
We explored how the focus expanded exponentially, didn't it? Moving from simple physical interfaces to complex digital interactions, and then encompassing entire user experiences, giving us those products and services that, when done well, just seamlessly work for us, sometimes even bringing joy.
And finally, we witnessed that thrilling revenge of the user, where you, the listener, are no longer just seen as a passive consumer. You're increasingly empowered to be a maker, a hacker, a co-creator, actively shaping the very world around you through open source tools, accessible technologies, and collaborative platforms.
This deep dive into the ideas from beautiful users really underscores that design isn't just about aesthetics, is it? It's not just about making things look pretty.
Not at all. It's deeply intertwined with ethics, with ensuring accessibility for all, with fostering independence and dignity, and fundamentally, with understanding what it truly means to be human in all our complexity and particularity. It's about how the objects, the spaces, the systems we interact with every single day can either limit us or much more powerfully empower us.
So, as you go about your day, as you look around at the designed world that constantly surrounds you, whether it's the coffee mug currently in your hand, maybe the chair you're sitting on, or indeed the device you're listening to this very conversation on, take a moment. What unexpected affordances do you discover in those everyday things? What possibilities for action do they invite?
And perhaps more importantly, how might you, the beautiful, capable, potentially creative user, contribute to shaping the next wave of design? How can we all participate in moving towards that more holistic, more equitable, more sustainable, and ultimately more human future?